Majority Report with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
Ever get the feeling you've been cheated?
It is Wednesday, February 15th, 2017. My name is Michael Brooks on a Michael Wednesday, and this is the four-time award-winning Majority Report. We're broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On today's program, Wosny Lambre, Big Woz from ESPN True Hoop, live in studio. We're talking about Dum-DumGate, the Trump administration, ongoing, endless, relentless, tremendous, fantastic, really incredible crisis. Mike Flynn lied to a bunch of people, and then they lied to each other, and then they screwed Mike Pence, and now he's out. But the scandal is still unfolding. Maybe that's good news for the Kurds, but probably not. I'll explain why. And Rand Paul coming through with some important insight. We can't let Russia potentially compromising our system of government because we have other things to do, like take food out of children's mouths, make people homeless. We got bigger things to focus on, according to Rand Paul, in a move guaranteed to help super producer Matt and other young Catholics like him in arguments with their parents. The Pope comes out strong against the Dakota Access Pipeline. Mamma mia. How the European far right is funded by Russia, supported by Russia. That's the real story of Russian intervention in American politics and global politics. That's why it matters. Andrew Pudzer gearing up for his hearings tomorrow, nominating him to be Labor Secretary is like fill in the blank of any joke. You know, Alex Jones, Mental Health Task Force, Bill Cosby, Rape Prevention Network, you know, any of that stuff. We'll get to that. And we thought it was going to be Sean Spicer, but it might be the incredible, the terrifying Kellyanne Conway. She's having a rough day, folks. We'll get to all of that and more on today's Majority Report. Let's start up top as Woz gets himself situated. Actually, you want to take, we'll do this sound real quick, then throw on some quick break music and set Woz up. All right, but let's just get to this for a second. Rand Paul, who is known for his commitment to the Constitution, his horrible voice, being like his son. Wow, it's weird. His son, the son, like, if Rand Paul is like an honorable crackpot, like an insane old man who's sort of like, oh, I mean, you gotta have gold. I don't hate black people, but, I mean, the chromosomes, you're just like, all right, dude, whatever. Go to a nursing home, whatever you need to do. Rand Paul is like the dick son who got all of the bad ideas, but none of like the sort of bizarre, like weird sort of honorableness of his dad. So he's trying to figure out how to deal with the Trump era because Donald Trump certainly sunned him a lot during the campaign. I remember one of my favorite moments during the debates was when Rand Paul made his attack at Trump, and he's like, all he does is make fun of how people look and everything. It's just so sophomoric. And Trump looked at him. He goes, well, I never made any comments about how you look. And believe me, there's a lot of material there. And that was one of those moments where I realized that I'm not such a great person in some ways, because if in that literal moment, I would have voted for Donald Trump. But Rand Paul now, though, he was talking with Brian Kilmeade, who is still, even in today's world, a solid candidate for dumbest person on planet Earth. And they were on Kilmeade's radio show.
Definitely one of the dumbest published authors.
Oh, yes.
Trump's a published author. So
yeah, I was
don't
going to
know.
say, I make deals. No, honestly, Brian Kilmeade makes Donald Trump look like a Rhodes Scholar or a Nobel winner. Brian Kilmeade is room temperature on this. And basically, Rand Paul's talking to him, and they're talking about Mike Flynn. Mike Flynn's been eased out, but there's new reports coming out with these Russia stories, and the whole thing is a disaster. But Rand Paul has a really important insight about not getting your eye. The Republicans just can't get their eyes off of the ball. They need to stay focused on what really matters. Here's Rand Paul talking about why there shouldn't be further investigations to the ever-stupid Brian Kilmeade.
Administration's linked to Russia in light of the Lieutenant General resigning as National Security Advisor last night.
I think that might be excessive. I think that looks like the president has handled the situation, and unless there's some kind of other evidence of malfeasance, this sounds like something that was internal White House politics, and looks like the president's handled it.
I agree personally. I just think that the Senator McCain, and I can understand he was hit personally by the president, I think, as you were. I don't think he's over it. Do you?
I just don't think it's useful to be doing investigation after investigation, particularly of your own party. We'll never even get started with doing the things we need to do, like repealing Obamacare, if we're spending our whole time having Republicans investigate Republicans. I think it makes no sense.
I agree.
Okay, so basically what you have there is this is, of course, just a little small side blip that Mike Flynn lied, potentially the FBI, lied to apparently Mike Pence. Trump knew. This is just the beginning of what we know about these calls to Russia, along with everything else that keeps getting reported about this stuff. And but Rand Paul's on target. He's like, look, we have more important things to do, like make sure people don't have health care and take people out of their homes. I didn't become elected to the Senate to investigate espionage. I did it to make black kids poorer. So I think we got to get back to basics. All right. We're going to take a 30-second break, set Woz up, and then we will be right back with more of the ongoing Dum-Dum Watergate and so much more on the Majority Report. We'll be right back.
In a dancehall style, and everybody you go like, still be irie, 'cause we no love like this, no. So every time I rise, we do it for the love, and I do it for the lights. Do it for the love, and I do it for the lights. Do it for the love, and I do it for the lights. Do it for the love, and I do it for the lights. Make them know success don't come overnight. No make them know a substance over hype. Do it for the love, and I do it for the lights. Simple mean we not ready yet. If we put the music first, that's all. While we there on a war and a hype, we work, dance all. When you see me, yes, I see I. And every tune when we ever write, and every show where we headline. No, we not do it for the likes, but we tell them we do it for the love, we not do it for the likes. Do it for the love, we not do it for the likes. Never tell you if you bust a shot and quench them. Instead me tell you sell it gun and buy a yen. 'Cause we do it for the love, we not do it for the lights. On to them, swing them not like we, but we not response. Fly out and make them love we from a distance. Come home for 2 weeks vacation. Enough of them still stuck in the quicksand. Enough to hear us say them are the big man. In a Jamaica, and them have the hit song. A gentleman, me hear a play a Finland.
All right. Welcome back to the Majority Report. We're all set. Welcome, Big Woz.
What's going on, guys?
What's up, man? He's on Push to Talk?
Can you hear me?
Oh, no, don't.
You want to be on Push to Talk or not?
No, he shouldn't be on Push to Talk. Sorry, everybody. All right, so I always keep trying to focus on the part of this Russia story that to me actually matters, okay? I don't get it, and you tell me what you think. I feel like Russia makes everybody stupid. I can't find a single area of this conversation other than Marcy Wheeler, who was on yesterday, who seems to be able to talk about this. Because obviously there's like, Democratic, establishment Clinton types who want to blame Russia for everything because they don't want to take responsibility for anything, and they've all of a sudden become, they're like in their conspiracy theory mode on Russia. But then on the other hand, you have people who are like, Russia didn't do anything. How do I know? Because Julian Assange tweeted it, and he's the most honest person in the history of humanity. And even to criticize Russia on anything means that we're about to have the Third World War. Oh, is your laptop?
Oh,
Sounds
shoot,
on the laptop.
Sorry.
So, Waz coming in. But I think this is a piece that recently was reported in NBC News a couple of days ago, and all of this stuff, like, here's what we know definitively about Russia in terms of the Trump administration, okay? We know that Paul Manafort, who managed Trump's campaign briefly, is connected to politicians in Ukraine who are Russian sort of, patronage clients, basically, right? Like they're fronts for Russia. We know that there's a lot of investigation interest in Manafort in terms of his connection to those politicians and to corruption emanating out of Eastern Europe. So that's an indisputable connect. We already know that. We know that Mike Flynn had this conversation with the Russian ambassador, lied about it, and has to go. We also know that the administration knew for weeks he was lying about it, and it only became a problem when it was revealed that he was lying about it.
If he was, in fact, lying about it.
If he was, or if he wasn't doing it at the behest of Trump.
Right.
Right?
If he wasn't working in concert with them, which I'm more inclined to believe.
Yeah, I'm more
inclined.
Dun, dun, dun. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's like we've got like this like Dum-Dum Watergate situation. But before, and then we have like the DNC hacks, which I'm inclined to believe probably was Russia related, but I've not seen definitive evidence on that at all, right?
Sure.
Like I totally would own that. And then we have the dossier, which makes for a lot of fun reading.
Right.
And I certainly don't.
Moby says it's true.
So done.
Moby the
musician has said that he has intelligence contacts that have confirmed the validity.
Moby's been right so far this week.
Yeah, of the PP dossier. So, but let's just get to this NBC report for a second, because this is like the part, I think, of Russian foreign policy that actually matters, right? Because the point is to improve things in the international system, not just look for anybody to equate with the United States or constantly point out hypocrisy. Like, I don't think pointing out hypocrisy is really the most terribly interesting thing in the world. The point is that Russia's interested in nationalist parties. It's interested in far-right politics. And there's a natural reciprocity with Russia for really obvious reasons, because Russia's a far right-wing petrostate.
Right.
Right? It ain't that complicated. So I'll get your thoughts on this. I'm just going to quote a little bit from this NBC News article. While U.S. intelligence agencies investigate claims that Russia secretly hacked emails to help tip last year's elections in favor of Donald Trump, Russia's push to bolster far-right populist politicians in Europe has been far more blatant. And then just moving forward, in the past, the Russian government has given loans to Marie Le Pen's National Front Party in France. He's signed agreements with far-right party in Hungary. On RT, there's regular outlets for other Eurosceptic and sort of pro-Russian political parties as well. And this is much more overt in the Eurozone. And again, there's nothing like amazing about figuring this out. Russian foreign policy strategy is to undermine the European Union because a united Europe is not helpful to what they want to do with their energy strategy. It's not helpful in terms of people advocating for different ways of piping natural gas into Germany. Right. And what they're trying to do is fine. And then the parties in Europe, it makes sense, they have kinship with them.
Right.
They're far right. They're anti-immigrant. They're both not particularly fans of Muslims.
Yeah.
So it's in ideological harmony. And I guess what I don't understand, I want your thoughts on, is like, why can't we just have a conversation about Russia that doesn't either devolve into a conspiracy theory, they're the origin of all evil on the planet, and we need to confront them, whatever that means, or like, just even criticizing anything they do means that you want like a new Cold War or something. I mean, it's just weird.
Yeah, I think people conflate some of our past issues with Russia with the present, right? If you can just have an understanding that what they want to do is sell oil, right? Because that's what that's how they support their economy. Their economy is
it's a petro state.
Yeah, you know. So if you just understand that that's their ultimate goal, it's not hard to get why they would support Donald Trump, you know, because he's amenable to that. Like the people that he surrounded himself with are all oil. Sort of, at the very least, adjacent. You know?
No, absolutely.
So it's not that hard to understand. It's just people. It's just Russia's one of those buzzwords, right? Like that you can ascribe so many different things to. But if you just break it down to its core components, they're a petro state. They want to sell oil. They want to do it for as long as they possibly can, and they're investing in that basically with these far right parties. And the reason why. The reason why you would invest in these far-right nationalistic parties is because it's an easy sell. It's easy to get people on board with that. It's easy to get, you know, native, let's face it, European
European nativists,
you know, to feel like, yo, these foreigners are ruining everything.
The foreigners are ruining everything, and we don't want to be under the yoke of the EU. We want to have our own bilateral relationships. Well, that makes sense from a Russian strategic standpoint. And I said in 2010, right? This is before we even start talking about what happened with Trump specifically and the funding of any parties like the National Front. When in fact, this was, I believe it was even earlier. There was a German coalition government that ended in 2005 with Social Democrats and Greens, right? And Gerhard Schroeder, who was the Chancellor of Germany, and the Foreign Minister, Joschka Fischer, they went off after they left office, and they were on competing pipeline projects. And one that Joschka Fischer wanted was the Nabokov pipeline, which would have moved through like the Caucasus and Turkey, and it would have provided an alternative way of getting natural gas into Germany, and it would have been less, reliant on Russia. Schroeder, almost like not even like very shortly after he left office, was completely put in the board of Nord Stream, which is a major Russian pipeline project, and sits on the board of big Russian energy companies, right? So like they also tried to get one of the first Bush's former Treasury secretaries to do that as well. Like this is not really that complicated to figure out, and the goal is they just want to have their pipes everywhere, and that's not. There's no like big, deep thing to figure out here.
Right.
And I think, we talked about with Dan Dicker, but now there was a recent piece that I know we were both going over called Trump, Putin, and Pipelines to Nowhere by Alex Steffen, which is exactly what you were getting us into. And it's basically, I'll just quote from it really quick. Trump has put forward a host of other appointees who are overt. This is the climate denial connection. Right. So first you have all the oil guys like Tillerson, who again is very close to Putin and shares a synchronized view on global oil exploration. Right. Then you have this is now quoting from the article: overt climate denialists and generally also have financial ties to the industries threatened by the carbon bubble. These include Rick Perry, Trump's choice for the Secretary of Energy and close ally of big oil; Scott Pruitt, EPA administrator and virulent climate denialist; Nikki Haley, UN ambassador, also known for suppressing climate science as governor; Steve Bannon, chief strategist and just generally gross; Ryan Zink, Secretary of the Interior, who strongly supports more oil and gas explorations on public lands; and, of course, Jeff Sessions, Attorney General and climate regulation opponent; and Elaine Chao, Secretary of Transportation, who's been tasked with getting fossil fuel infrastructure planned through Congress, working with her husband, Mitch McConnell, who's an arch energy advocate. There's only, I mean, every other country in the globe with any kind of like comparable block of power, like China has terrible environmental policy, but they have a much more diversified portfolio, and they're trying to invest in renewables. The European Union has done a lot on climate change. Russia, not so much.
Right.
And now we're not. So I just think like people need to get through their heads that that's where the interest points are.
And it's the same it's always been, right? Ever
Right.
since, I want to say right after World War I, we figured out that like this oil and gas stuff, like energy is where it's at. But that was 100 years ago, by the way.
Right.
Like we discovered this technology 100 years ago, which is kind of all you need to know about it. And we've kind of, a lot of our policy has been dictated by energy.
Yeah, just wiring
going
the world for
forward.
carbon.
You know, everything
it.
we do in the Middle East, all of this stuff, you know, it's been driven by. So it's the same as it's ever been. I don't know why it's so hard for people to comprehend that. Like it's
a different slice of it. It's an expansion of what's already happened.
And this idea that, you know, just because these people have already made billions of dollars polluting the planet doesn't mean that these people don't ever have their fill. It's never going to be enough. They're not going to just be like, you know what, this oil and gas thing, it had a nice run. We've enriched ourselves adequately enough. Let's just give it a rest. Let's, you know, green energy. Let's let them have their time. That's not how this works.
Green energy's time. Well, and it's a fundamentally it's a non-strategic industry by definition.
Right.
Like you could like in the sense of you might need to have maps and plans and projections about oil deposits and energy deposits, but fundamentally all you're trying to do is hit a spot, rip and run.
Right.
That's it.
That's it.
And you share a mentality and an interest with, you know, the present Russian administration. And if you look at, again, in the European context where it's far more overt, I don't understand what is hard for people to understand about the natural affinities here in terms of political and strategic interest. And that doesn't mean that I want us to have a Cold War with Russia, or that Russians are the worst, or, you know, or any of these other like weird things that people bring up in this conversation.
What you see happen a lot, especially with, you know, a Greenwald type, right? It's like the reason why I can understand why he has this instinctual pushback, because this is what we do with radical Islam, right?
Yeah.
It's the same.
And he's right. He's right about a lot of that. He's right.
A lot of times when we do this boogeyman stuff, it's wrong.
Right.
You know, and you know, because I'm sitting here thinking about some of these, you know, alt-right, these white nationalist figures and these anti-Islamic people.
You're talking about that school shooter guy that we're about to talk about?
Sure.
Stephen
and
Miller?
You know, it's this idea that like radical Islam is coming and they're going to spread Sharia law. It's like something like that is so stupid because we can't even get people to think that affordable health care is something that they want, right? But we're going to get people to embrace the most fundamentalist elements of the Islamic faith.
Well, it's not about embracing, it's about forcing. Allahu Akbar.
Right. We can't force people to embrace affordable health care for themselves. It's just ridiculous. So I understand the pushback.
Right.
But, you know, fundamentally it's not a Russia thing, it's an oil thing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's not a Russia thing, it's an oil thing. And then it's a global far right thing. Right. That's like the thing that people need to get through their heads. Like, do you want to improve a system? Do you want to say like, okay, a foreign policy that's dominated by American imperial interest that is aggressively pushed by NATO, that imposes austerity, that writes trade agreements that favor Western corporations, that exploit all sorts of people and natural resources. Of course, the whole point of left politics and solidarity is you want to evolve and improve upon that. But then if your response is, no, I would prefer like a mercantile Russian foreign policy, that's not an evolution, that's a digression.
Right.
And I think that, we need to start having conversations about, from like a left perspective of like, where are the people or groups or institutions in the globe that we actually want to align with, even if they don't have a lot of power right now? You know what I mean? Like, we'll get to the Kurds in Turkey in a couple of minutes because, that's a good example of like, for their flaws and their mistakes, like that's a group of socialists holding down a major piece of real estate in Syria, implementing some very progressive things and fighting ISIS. Like, okay.
Right.
There's a model of something I'm
Right.
interested in having solidarity with, but not just some far-right petrostate just because they are not liked by some other people that are idiots here. But before we, unless you have another thing,
Well-
I want to get us to some Kellyanne in a minute.
Oh, okay. Well, what I was gonna say was, well, maybe you should get George Soros on the phone to fund these things.
Yeah, I would. I want to get George Soros to fund the
So,
YPG.
Hey man, George, I'm still waiting on my check, man.
Yeah. We're all waiting on our check from George. You know that if we were in right-wing media, we would already be making like
Of course.
a couple $100,000 a year.
But that's what I'm
We
saying.
could do a
Michael.
show where it could just be like we would just be like, by the way, I think affirmative action is bad for you people, and you'd be like, that's exactly right.
Right.
And then be like, all right,
so
check.
dash a check.
Yeah,
It'd
exactly.
be so easy to make money off of that. But
Oh
that's
my
what I'm
God.
saying. Like, where's our lefty Koch brothers? It just doesn't exist. So it's kind of harder to do that. To reach out to these international these foreign sort of entities, these like-minded entities. It's harder, man, because nobody's investing.
Yeah, but it's like another thing. It's just synchronized. It's like if your politics is you have a fixation on keeping your cultural identity clean, which
But
Russia,
that's easy
which
to
Russia,
sell, though.
it's
That's
easy to
easy.
sell to a certain part of the
Easy to
population.
package.
And then your foreign policy is going to be built around the most powerful companies and extractive industries on the planet. There you go. I mean, boom.
Done.
Yeah, dunzo. It's not exactly. I mean, the only thing that's actually holding them up, at least in our context, is how embarrassingly incompetent they are. So I want to get just to this, and it's just so funny because we'll play this John McCain sound actually. We'll do Kellyanne in the fun half because Kellyanne is having a rough time, dude.
Yeah.
But this to me is just amazing because it's like, I always say this with John McCain, like, you wouldn't have Donald Trump without Sarah Palin.
Nope.
Right? Like, there's a whole bunch of reasons why you have Donald Trump, but that transition of like, I'm going to make my VP a complete imbecile.
We're gonna gin up the base.
Gin up the base, which is also, what's great about that too is just how insulting that is. It's just like, I don't want to gin up my base. I'll have some like racist incompetent from Alaska. That'll
that's
get
the
them
thing.
excited, right? And it will.
That's like, if a woman like kind of just
Well, there's
takes the strap off a little bit, like, look, you see that?
That's definitely another big part of the Sarah Palin dynamic with these people. It's so disturbing. But John McCain, and at the same time he does that, has the nerve to run around talking about country first.
Oh, please.
And then
fraud.
Washington. Yeah, of course he's a fraud. And here he is walking. I think he's like in an airport or somewhere on the move, and he gets caught up with, I believe this is ABC News, and. Okay, let's just review what's happened in the last couple of days. You had photos at Mar-a-Lago with Trump being like, hey, you gave me money? Take a picture with the guy who carries the nuclear football. Like and also, like, and by the way, that's a black guy carrying the nuclear football. So,
So
don't
it's
think
safe.
you can call me racist. They're great at football. Why shouldn't they carry the football? They're good natural athletes. And then he's also sitting next to Shinzo Abe, having like and they're posting pictures while over like steaks. Like North Korea just did a missile launch So now we're dealing with a national security crisis at Mar-a-Lago. Yeah.
I told my dad both of those things, the whole Mar-a-Lago and the pictures and the Japanese prime minister.
Right.
And he was like, please just stop. I can't take this right now. And he listened to basically anything. And he was like, I just can't take it right now. Maybe later. We'll talk about it later. It's too much.
There's a lot of the country going through that right now, I think.
But
I actually had that conversation with Michael the other day.
Yeah.
I told him it's kind of like I just shattered my knee and now I'm going through rehab. You know, like I can't run like I used to. I can't consume as much news as I used to.
Right.
Just slowly but surely, I'm taking it a little bit more. You know, but it's
But how
it's
do you
hard.
when you get to a point though where it's just like you can't like there's certain things we can all choose to dip in and out of, but like what's
you
happening?
have to.
You know what I mean? Like this is it.
So my dad asked me, you know, he's like, and you have to do this every day. And I was like, I think that complete immersion might actually help because
Right. It just numbs you.
Yeah.
Not if you're super producer Matt left.
Yeah, I was about to say
if
the look on
anybody
Matt's
looks
face.
if anybody looks at Matt's Instagram, oof.
Yeah, it all bothers me. And then there's the occasional time where I'm just like, oh my God. But for the most part,
the way
it's
my
just
brain
like,
is wired is like as soon as I see the Mar-a-Lago picture, I'm like, it's a great fucking party. We're having an incredible time. I just turned into an impression.
Yeah, I have
funny.
to. I have to deflect. I have to deflect all reality into humor, basically. Like otherwise, it's.
Well, it's also like what I think happens too is that from a comedic standpoint, in the like you're playing with subtext. Like you're like, okay, so these crazy racist people think that Obama, like who's the you know the most conciliatory moderate guy on the planet, he's secretly a Muslim black militant. That's hilarious. Let's make that happen. And now what it is it's like, it's almost just like, oh, like basically these insane people have made us all insane. So the joke is that everybody's just becoming that. You know what I mean? Like that's the jokes like presidents throughout history being like, by the way, Bob Hope's a loser. Right. Like just everything just gets sucked into that vortex.
The funny thing about that is oftentimes when I see like zombie movies,
right.
It's like this is the zombie apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
Like
that's
like,
the collective subconscious is warning us.
This is what it is. Like you talk to somebody like, no, he's not born in Kenya, and they're like, no, I'm a zombie. Yes, he is, and I'm gonna kill you. You know what I'm saying? Like this is what it is. The zombies have taken over.
The zombies look healthier than Stephen Miller, though. So we'll get to that in a minute. But look, let me say that John McCain plays a major role in all this. But and we know, okay, so we got the Mar-a-Lago photos. We've got the fact that you know the national security director is out in 24 days. There's all sorts of contradictory accounts to the press.
Can we talk about that at some point?
Yeah, we can talk about. We'll talk about Mike Flynn right after we play this. But this is John McCain again. This is a guy that's still for twerps walking around Washington. Or like, well, John McCain. I mean, agree or disagree. He's a great patriot. Takes his job really seriously. And okay, and this is McCain's brand. So of course, like, just we're at, and you know. I actually don't really freak out that much in general about these kind of things. Like I get upset, I get worried. I think, you know, we've been in the apocalypse a long time from my perspective. But at the same time, like I'm definitely not someone who every single thing is, you know, like catastrophe. Right. But objectively, last couple of days, like we've got some things going on that are like, yeah, this ain't gonna work just structurally. Like if we kind of want to keep playing this game together, where like we have a government and things sort of function in a certain way, like this isn't working. So John McCain, Mr. Country First, guy who made Sarah Palin's career, we're at this total point of crisis, and here he is at ABC News talking about how he's concerned.
Are there any questions that the White House needs to answer in your mind in terms of the timeline and lots of questions? Yeah, there's lots.
Yeah.
Are you gonna ask for a briefing or anything?
I want to see, wait and see, but obviously there's a administration that is in significant disarray as far as national security is concerned, and they need to fix that. And we thank General Flynn for his service to the country.
Okay, they literally can't fix that. because they have a mentally ill con man running the country. How structurally could they fix that? And he's out there dropping the lines to remind everybody that he's a serious person and he takes his responsibility to our national security, with the utmost. But he's not doing anything. Roy Blunt was the first one yesterday saying we need to have this investigation about Russia finally.
And it's the same as always. In order for him to do something, he'd have to actually have a backbone. He'd actually have to have a conscience. And the bottom line is GOP-based voters are fine with this.
Yes.
And that's what
GOP-based voters are still liking Trump.
Yes.
And that is why, again, if you go inside the districts, he's still really popular.
Of course.
Again, because this is what they want. I think that's the other really important thing about the Republican
this whole
dilemma.
thing looking like it's failing
Yeah.
is a victory. It's like the government's falling apart. Well, if you think the government is stupid and evil and dumb and needs to be broken, this is great. This is all a part of the plan.
Yeah, and it's like I keep having flashbacks to listening to like National Review people on podcasts talking about how much they need to kneecap the executive branch because it's a huge problem for them. They want to federalize everything. Well, here's a really good excuse for them to do that.
Right.
That's true. Well, that's the inbuilt advantage they have. Every disaster that they create feeds the argument that
the
government's the problem.
Is dumb.
So that's that they have all of these
And again,
great
they have
kind of
all
inbuilt reinforcement mechanisms.
They have all of the easy answers. That's
Right.
all. Their entire structure is based on everything having a very simple, easy answer. Terrorism, ban the Muslims.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't got my job. Send the Mexicans back. Like,
you just got to do it.
Everything has they're a one-stop shop for simple, stupid answers. But the Michael Flynn thing is
let's talk about the Michael Flynn thing for a minute.
It's so interesting to me because it reminds me of what happened at Penn State, right?
Yeah.
Where, Jerry Sandusky and his son happens to be in the news again.
Did you just see that Jerry Sandusky's kid doing the same thing?
Right, which is crazy. So Jerry Sandusky is basically...
Well, I know. Well, not literally. It's
Right.
not surprising, but it's crazy.
Jerry Sandusky is allowed to just basically run amok and use his affiliation with the program as an engine to do some of these nasty things that he was doing.
Right.
And the excuse around the time amongst Penn State people was like, well, Joe didn't know. But the problem is, like, even if that's the case, which we know that it wasn't, that almost becomes worse.
Right.
Because your job is to know.
Right.
So if you don't know, to me, that makes you look even worse. This idea that somebody could be operating this way and you've empowered him in such a position, like, that looks even worse on you than it does if you were collaborating. Because,
I was collaborating.
A collaboration implies some kind of, foresight, some kind of planning, some type of competence. Like, if you didn't know that this guy was heavily Russiaed up,
Right.
what are we doing here? What do you know about anybody around you?
Right. Rush it up. It's all that Rosneft deal. That's the thing to look at. When they flip that company for billions of dollars to an unknown buyer, like, I would pay attention to that deal. And by the way, people again trying to make it like, I don't have a problem per se with them saying we're going to de-escalate with you and try another reset and see if we could have better bilateral relations. There's a lot of good things they could do together. They could work on arms control together. They should do more, strategic arms reductions. I mean, of course, Trump got on the phone with them and said he didn't like START because it wasn't good. Obviously, he doesn't know what START is.
Because he just heard about it.
Yeah, I heard about it, and I know that
he was in a bad mood when he heard
Obama
about
was involved with it, and I feel very insecure right now.
And I have low blood sugar.
Low blood sugar. I haven't had my McNuggets, and I don't like START. So I think that, that... But do you think, like, and I know this is just so insane from our perspective to even say this, but I actually wonder if, like, there were those people, and this is the thing that is still the most frustrating about cable news and the press, and we'll get to more of it in the second half, but there still are those people that are like, functionally they're not really swing voters because they're pretty much are, like no swing voters left. But
Republican.
or the type of people that might actually vote Democrat but have the like, all right, well now he's the president and we got to see. I mean, I remember listening to content, watching people say even before he got inaugurated, like, well, maybe when he goes into office and he feels the burden of the president, the weight of it, all of a sudden he'll just wake up. Like it's like, you know, people who were becoming through proximity to him just as delusional as he is. Like, of course not.
Right.
The guy's very limited and very capable of very few things, right? But I'm just wondering, like, for people who had those delusions, because it's the point you were making about Penn State and Flynn, like, as we definitively establish that this administration is so, like, embarrassingly incompetent and dangerous just through their complete inability. Like, I will say on my end, like, as horrible and as threatening and as dangerous as this all is, my kind of first week of like, I don't know what they're going to do, man. Like, maybe they'll cancel an election. You know what I mean? Now I'm like 3 weeks and I'm like, I don't think they're going to be able to handle that. I think what they need to figure out is how to do like a press briefing where Reince and Bannon say that they like each other without having to make jokes about massaging each other. I think they got, you got to walk before you can fly.
Also,
but does that undermine him with those people that were even a couple weeks ago were doing the whole like, oh, well, we just got to wait and see. Just the like sheer incompetence angle.
Oh no, people.
You know what I mean?
And it's happening, right?
Yeah.
It's happening already where people are like, wow, this is a lot worse than I even thought that it could be. And I'm not even talking about people that lean in the direction that you or I might lean.
Right.
I'm talking about fence sitters.
That's what I'm saying.
Or, those kind of God botherers who are like, his morality, like, I can't do his morality. But, if he's going to close abortion clinics, what the hey? Those kind of people are even like,
what the hey?
They didn't sign up to defend this guy's stuff for 4 years at this pace.
rate.
Yeah.
Right.
But what I was gonna say is more. I think people are starting to see the light on this.
Right.
Like the fence sitters, anyway. Like the people who are super entrenched, and basically, they got swastika tattoos. Like they're not going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that's the other part of it too. That's like, I know that people never like to acknowledge that racism, or white people don't really like to acknowledge racism exists in some ways. And I completely agree that for both practical, moral, and policy reasons, Democrats need to have a serious inequality agenda. And the only way that you would even pick off possibly a couple million people that voted for Trump and also voted for Obama is by nominating somebody who's like, no bullshit. We're going to have a real healthcare plan. We're going to deal with the economy. That's it. That's undebatable. But I got to say, like, do you think that at least for some people, and part of it is just because, like, he's so repulsive, but when you have Stephen Miller come out, who really, and someone I am this, and I had the same thought when I first saw him, the only thing that he could remind you of is an aspiring high school shooter. Right? Like, that is literally the only way I could place him.
Oh, man.
With those dead, soulless eyes, and he's trying to make his voice sound deeper than it is.
I think, there must be a population of people who are sort of susceptible to going on some sort of break like that, but don't end up actually doing it. Stephen Miller's like, he does seem very...
He's in the pool.
He's in the pool.
He was just successful enough. Like, he got into Duke. He
got the Duke acceptance letter. He's like, everybody at high school's really lucky. They just dodged a lot.
You guys just dodged the bullet.
Yeah.
Literally.
I was wondering, like, is this going to be the first administration that has an office shooting in it?
Oh, my God.
Because I thought about that with Flynn. I was like, these people are crazy.
Yeah, and Flynn, look, Flynn, he's a guy flying off the handle. He's on the edges to begin with, But
that's actually, on Flynn for a second, though, right? Because let's go back to that before maybe we do Miller in the fun half.
Right.
Because it's like, okay, I think this is what annoys people on the more like, our side, like more in that intercept zone, and I get it, is that obviously, like, the reason, and Glenn Greenwald actually did write a good piece about this yesterday, where he said, look, the only reason we know that Mike Flynn was lying was because there was someone who leaked the information.
That's what I wanted
right?
to get into.
Yeah, so we'll get to it's whistleblowing.
Right.
So it's the same behavior that, put Drake, Thomas Drake, it ruined his career, put
I
him in
thought you
jail.
were going to say that planted Drake in the industry. He's an industry plant.
It's the same thing. It's the same reason why Drake gets to run around Rihanna. It was a leak. I know it. You know it. We all know it. No, but, obviously Chelsea Manning, Edward Snowden, all of these people were people who blew the whistle on government malfeasance. And there are a lot of people, it was established last year. Jake, or not last year, but rather several years ago, Clapper lied to the Senate about NSA, right? And the Obama administration, that's definitely a mark against it. It was horrible on whistleblowers. And now you see, a lot of people cheering this on when clearly, like what's happening to Flynn is just internal intelligence wars. And I understand why people get frustrated by that, but I'm wondering if people start to see the intel community just be like the other political player that they really are, does that start making everybody more thoughtful about all of these institutions in the long run? You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's what I wanted to ask you. It's like, as a Democrat or a lefty or somebody who just opposes
Stalinist,
right?
Believe in
a
democracy.
Leninist.
yeah. Or someone who would like government to function with some basic competency and decency, anywhere on that line.
But how do you feel about a deep state coup? You know what I'm saying? Because this is a slippery slope.
Yeah,
like it's serving our own ends now.
Yeah,
I mean, it's arguably not unprecedented though. Too like Nixon felt was number 2 at FBI.
Right.
So. It's not.
Wait, explain that to people.
So Mark Felt, who it was late, I think in the 2000s, revealed that he was
Deep Throat.
He was Deep Throat. Yeah,
not the movie, y'all.
Yeah, he was the number 2 at the FBI, and he wanted to take over the. Bob Woodward actually had a book, I think that recently came out with Alexander Butterfield, who revealed it, but had some stuff about that. So. Like
that he was doing it for his own career advancement.
Yeah,
it wasn't, and there was also internal wars because the people in the intel community did not like basically that Nixon was trying to like bring them to heel in his own like
Hudson
private
plan,
org.
or Houston plan it was called.
Okay.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly.
So no, I mean, I'm not. I mean, but again, that's something that culturally is an interesting conversation. Like, I have no problem, and I'm glad that Mike Flynn got leaked on. And I also don't even have a problem saying that, again, I made this point a couple weeks ago. I have all sorts of problems with someone like John Brennan, just even on policy grounds, right? Like the kill list, how we manage the drone program, that's real stuff.
Right.
And expansion of NSA and all of the, I mean, not only is it a problem then, it's also like, I remember arguing with somebody in 2013, and I didn't use Trump as my example, but I did say, okay, let me stipulate that Barack Obama never makes mistakes and is a perfect human being and he's never done anything wrong. But if you don't govern these things and you don't have an adversarial system, what happens when you have a crazy Republican president?
Right.
Little did I know.
Right.
I didn't actually mean clinical. So now we have like, this situation. And I do notice with the, some of the like the more Hillary types that I'm friends with, is when they put out like the see, this is why you shouldn't screw with the CIA. Like they don't play. And of course I'm sitting there like maybe a bunch of like peasants who wanted like a living wage somewhere should have also knew that like the CIA doesn't play before they like set up a coup, or like maybe like Al-Awlaki's kids should know that our deep state doesn't play. I get it. I think it's gross, but I don't have a but also politics is one of opportunism, as well. And it's
a lot of times the great things happen for the wrong reasons, right? Like we don't actually know why.
Right.
The intelligence community is like, we're not having this. We don't know. I mean, I think
it's a bunch of. I think some of it is genuinely that
like morality.
They see what everybody else does,
right?
No,
they're like, this is bullshit.
But that's what
like, actually, is this supposed to be us?
That's what people don't understand. Yeah.
Well, so I mean, as far as the question of, is it good that people are seeing all of these institutions come out? it reminds me of an article from this month's New York Mag that I just read yesterday about it's by Michael Idov, and who grew up here in the States, but it was originally from Russia and then went back.
Really?
And he, the subhead for the article and the main takeaway that kept me thinking is once you lose faith in one institution, you start to lose faith in them all. And so while I don't think it's good for the American public to generally just not think about their distrust of institutions, it's better for everyone to be awake. In a way, if you start, the more that people start to realize that all of these institutions are like working against each other and they're made up of human beings and you can't really just blindly trust them, the more that it kind of creates a culture of distrust in the government. And then, the description of how that plays out in Putin's Russia, it's not good for the people.
But the problem is that, you can't. This is where these institutions have all earned their distrust.
Yeah.
Like
Right,
this
exactly.
is the environment.
This is a hyper-normalization thing.
Yeah, this is hyper-normalization.
The stories
right.
are not keeping up with what we're actually learning about reality. And really, I think, there's no solution for that other than we're going to hit these bottoms that we're hitting right now. And a portion of the population will realize what the meaning, what those institutions are actually there for in the first place.
This is why I always keep thinking, and tell me what you think of this. This is why I always keep thinking of these pre and post examples. Like and this is where culturally the argument that it's not as simple or as condensed that Hillary specifically led to Trump or something like that, but I don't think you have Donald Trump. I know you don't have Donald Trump without rampant criminality in the financial services industry.
Right.
You don't have Trump without an unaddressed structural racism in this country. You don't have Trump without massive inequality. You don't have Trump without corruption across every institution. So
if people couldn't say you sucked at your job, you couldn't have people couldn't point at these institutions and say you failed at your tasks.
All of them.
They wouldn't look to Trump to say, "All right, save us from this."
Yeah, and that's what he came along to do. And I think that that's where it's do we have? I mean, I remember I said last year, I said, look, the situation we're in, I did think Hillary would win, but I said ultimately, the choice is Bernie or Donald. We're either going to have big improvements or we're going to go to seriously bad places.
Right.
Because people don't trust what they can't trust.
And it's also interesting, to criticize it from the left, and I understand that impulse to be skeptical of them. But it's also funny when you want the Democratic senators to throw out all those institutional norms and everyone else. Well, if the intelligence community is throwing off some of the norms to go after Trump, okay, we don't trust why they're doing it, but fundamentally, it's I think at least my judgment right now is I just want Trump out of the White House.
Okay. No, and by the way,
that.
I'm okay with the deep state. Cool.
Wait, explain that. Why are you okay with that?
Get him because it's something that we talked about recently too. It's about tactics. Mm-hmm. It's about this is what it's going to take.
It shouldn't have gotten to this point is the point. But now that it has, you don't have a lot of options.
Right. We don't have like our quote unquote advocates in the Congress, the Democrats in the Senate and in the House. They're completely powerless. They can't do a damn thing to this guy.
But that's why we got to be on the streets, though.
I don't think we need
to do all of the above, but I think it becomes our own technocratic wish fulfillment. Some people get on their own. What I just want is some CIA officers who speak Arabic to just reinstall Obama. That's that homeland mediocre liberal fantasy.
No.
You know what I mean? I get,
I have no fantasies about the CIA.
No, but where I agree with you is that. Yeah, the norms are out and everybody's playing. What I hope is that maybe it leads to like, all right, we get all of these institutions are dysfunctional and corrupt, but first we make distinctions. That's like what the Bernie or bust people missed. There is a big difference between understanding structural corruption and someone who's like, no, I really would like to turn this country into Uzbekistan.
Right.
There's a big difference between saying like Uzbekistan and we just gonna do it.
Right. But again, the problem. This is why I'm okay with this sort of deep state intrusion stuff.
Right.
Because you take an institution like Department of Homeland Security, who's in charge of letting people in.
Right.
Something that they actually do well, like vetting the people that are allowed to come into this country, they're being attacked for not like up is down. Like, no, they actually do. Like, this is a function that they actually perform well. And then you have our president's supporters saying, no, they're not doing it well enough. We need to impose some travel ban. It's like, even though institutions have been dysfunctional and they failed, whether it be the regulators or whoever they may be, it's like, you guys don't have an appreciation for what it could have been. Right? Like
I think you will now.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And that's what I'm saying. It's like a lot of times these institutions aren't even getting the credit for the stuff that they do well.
Right.
Because people have been fed this narrative of just everything government gets their hands on is disastrous.
Well, that's the Alex Jones, like that's why I try to make the point. And I know a lot of people don't get it and they say it's
like as much as the CIA, sorry to cut you off, but as much as the CIA has ruined so many things.
Rasta no work for no CIA.
I mean, you already know.
Yeah.
Ja Rastafari. Seeing? Nah, but as much as they've messed up a lot of stuff globally, they have actually performed functions that have kept us safe at home. Like, and I'm not even gonna do the keeping scores thing, because if we're being real, they probably
that would not be a winning score.
Exactly, it wouldn't be a winning score. But there are functions that they actually perform adequately.
Well, and I also think again, this is the thing that I wish people would understand. And I know every time I try to make this point, there's a certain contingent of people that just can never process it, and then we go to the fun half. Is like, and John Brennan to me is the consummate example of this. If we were and by the way, if we were in a normal situation, if Hillary Clinton was president and we were assessing the drone program, the kill list, and everything else, I would be dedicating a lot of content to talk about civilian deaths in Yemen, Pakistan, as I did, by the way, in real time,
right,
and talking about how dysfunctional and dangerous that legacy is. But also, when you look at someone like John Brennan, it's someone who, in contrast to these Trump people, and what people need to understand, is still someone who somewhat took, or did take, through his own filtered value system, which I happen to have strong disagreements with. He took his function and his task seriously,
right,
and wanted to maintain some institutional integrity. And that's the thing that people on our side, that's when I get into that dumb left critique. Because you got to start being able to make distinctions between things that are structurally wrong. They could be disgusting. We could have strong, profound disagreements with. But if you can't see that versus like, we're just going to turn the country into a private Exxon subsidiary, or I'm going to be lobbying for Turkey basically at the same time I'm coming in, which is another thing that we didn't even talk about with Flynn. And you talk about like the Kurds, like they're going to get sold out in a second by this administration. So, and Flynn literally was out, doing those lobbying contracts during the transition. So, you got to be able to make these distinctions, because we need to be able to make some actual threat assessments here, which is part of how we got into this situation. It's one thing to say everything's disgusting and dysfunctional, but you need to make those distinctions. I mean, I agree with you. I think that's the point you're making.
Or else you turn into, keep your government hands off my Medicaid guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're not making the proper distinctions, you're just another one of those people that we on the left like to make fun of and act like we're superior to.
Yeah, exactly.
Which mostly is true.
Exactly. Well, this is as good a time as any to go into the fun half, where we can act with more superiority to all of our inferiors.
Coastal liberal elites.
This is actually what Woz and I do. Like, even when we're out drinking, we're like, could we get another round for the coastal liberal elites. Subscribe to Two Dope Boys in a Podcast. Lots happening with that show. Obviously, you can also hear Woz on that show. Subscribe to the Majority Report. In all ways you can subscribe. Write us a review on iTunes. Just Coffee, Fair Trade, tea, coffee, or chocolate. We're going to hit you up in the fun half. Thanks, everybody.
Don't read the chat.
Welcome back. Welcome back. We're on the fun half. Big Woz. Wosny Lambre with me. Majority Report. All right. Let's take one call. You're calling from a 215 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
215 is Philly.
You're calling from Philly. Who are you? Where are you calling from? You there? Is he up? All right. I'll go to one more. There should be no problem. Everything should be fine. You're calling from a 616 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
This is Tim from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Tim, sorry. Say that again.
Oh, it's Tim from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Hey, Tim. What's going on, man?
Just had two questions. First one is kind of policy. Second one's kind of personal.
Okay.
First one was I was looking at climate change and how to address it, and I was thinking you have pretty much two options. Mm-hmm. Either you can raise the wages of everyone, at the base, all the low-income workers, raise the minimum wage, and then pull from that from taxes, or you can appeal from the higher class for just like solar panels or infrastructure for subsidizing solar technology.
Okay.
And I was thinking, with that, probably the best way to address it from the high-income earner side is just to get with someone that owns a bunch of apartment complexes and a bunch of like parking garages, and basically say, hey, we'll allow you to have volunteer workforce, get all these people lined up that's concerned about this issue, and then we'll get you installed, within, let's say, 6 months or whatever, and then move on to the next location.
I think we're gonna. I mean, I think these are cool ideas. I mean, I think climate change definitely is the question is about will, and it's about policy process. It's not about ideas.
And it'll need like New Deal style programs.
It's gonna
like
need
that.
New Deal style massive government and international interventions to speed up the deployment of new technologies, basically, and do a lot of redesign of public transportation systems and everything else. I mean, it's something that would benefit the economy and people's way of life massively. I would look at the Climate Mobilization Organization that Wes Clark Jr. works with. They do a lot of great work. What was the second question, really quick, because we got a bunch of calls and we kind of got to be tight.
Second question is just, I'm a 27-year-old student working on my bachelor's. I kind of have a long road ahead of me, but I could also take the shorter route and just kind of take a trade like welding and be able to affect these issues like climate change. And I'm kind of like, should I just take the shorter route? Because these issues are pretty big, and I feel like I should be contributing more to them. Or should I just kind of follow the longer path?
I mean, I can't
it's gonna
possibly
make more money at the end.
Answer, such a personal question for you. Obviously, I'm not. Waz and I are developing an advice show, which will be dropping soon. But no, I'm just kidding. But no, I don't know. You gotta. That's something you gotta follow your own instincts on. And I guess I would caution. I mean,
if you learn a trade, get a trade where you can join a union, and I think that's.
I mean, that's definitely something you would want to do if you do learn a trade or something like that. Definitely, you want to be able. If you want to be able to unionize, that's essential for being able to make a living. But and also it depends what you're studying. I mean, but I can't answer that for you. What were you gonna say?
If you can earn a pension, I'd say you do that. That would be my advice.
I appreciate the call, man. Thank you.
Reason number 528, how you know I listen to too much rap, right?
Right. Tell me.
He said he had either two choices. The first one was school.
Right.
And me being such a rap consumer, I thought the other side of that binary was copying cocaine. Selling drugs. Exactly. I was like, wait a minute.
That would be like the most interesting majority. It's like I either want to go into climate policy or I want to like set up a trap house.
Like I was like, I literally thought that's what he was about to say.
But I'm also wondering if we could do cocaine production in a more carbon neutral way. All right, let's get to Kellyanne for just a bit. So last weekend, I don't know, did you see this yet, man? Saturday Night Live did a Fatal Attraction read of Kellyanne Conway and Jake Tapper. And, we've been picking up this energy a little bit. It does always seem like Jake and Kellyanne are on some kind of like weird date or something. And they went and they took that to the next level. Do we have that ready, Matt? Okay, so let's look at this is Saturday Night Live, Jake Tapper, Kellyanne, Fatal Attraction, and then we're going to look at some clips about how this actually seems like it's coming true in real life over the weekend.
And that'll do it for us on State of the Union. As always, I'm Jake Tapper. Fareed Zakaria, GPS, is next.
And we're out.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Yeah, great show, man. And for what it's worth, I think it was the right call not to let Kellyanne on today.
Thank you. The White House offered her. She got too many credibility issues.
Yeah, I'm glad you drew the line.
Thanks. Well, have a good night, Mike.
All right, man.
Back at it tomorrow.
Have a good night, Jake.
Do you want a drink?
Kellyanne, what the hell are you doing here?
I just want to be a part of the news, Jake.
She's nailing the cadence.
Oh, yeah.
By breaking into my apartment?
What was I supposed to do? You weren't answering my calls. You changed your number. I'm not going to be ignored.
You didn't get it, Kellyanne. You made up a massacre. can't have you on.
But I missed the news. I'm gonna get mic'd. I want to feel that hot black mic pressed up against my skin. Is this the tie you wore in the news today? Sounds like the news. You taste the news in your face, do you?
Kellyanne, no! We can't have you on TV if you're just gonna keep lying.
Okay, fine. I'll do something else. I'll do something really crazy. What if I do a free commercial for Ivanka's shoes? Live on air. Would you like that, baby?
What? No, that's illegal.
So what?
So this was a brilliant sketch, and I definitely I think it captured like the inner essence of Kellyanne Conway underneath her sort of like disturbingly calm, compulsive, lying exterior. But we were noting yesterday that Kellyanne, was out saying, literally almost moments before Mike Flynn was eased out, that he had the trust of the president.
Full confidence of the president.
Full confidence of the president. So what did you think when you saw that, Woz? What was your impression of that?
Of the skit? Or
no, of her saying that, and then how clearly out of alignment it was with reality.
Look, you got to understand, I'm one of those people that immediately after Trump was elected, one of my first thoughts was like, oh my God, Kellyanne Conway's going to be on TV for 4 years. Like, that was one of my first thoughts. So it's like, this is what she's been doing for basically a year. Like,
yes.
At a certain point, it's like, what do these people have to do to not get on TV?
Well, I think we're at the point. Like, this is the saturation
point. We
point.
might actually be
They're
reaching.
just lying
We
to
might
you.
actually. But what was so interesting about the last lie was that it looked like now we've got the new wave of lies coming out, which is that they're all lying to each other. Like, look at what they did to Mike Pence. The great thing about the thing that I love most about the Mike Pence story, and again is a soft spot for Trump, is like the complete disrespect that Pence gets. Like, it's almost like, wait a second, everybody knew this weeks before I did? Wait, did I just get fucked? Yeah, Mike, you did get fucked.
Yes.
And by the way, you're out of the Rosneft deal. Now get out of the White House. By the way, you and Mike and Mike, the two Mikes, both your Rosneft deal shares are done. Shouldn't you be at some summer camp torturing a gay kid or something, Mike?
Well, that's
fucking loser. Get out of my sight. But I think that's like now what's happening with Kellyanne is that like you're seeing the internal mess go out in public. So here she is on Morning Joe, or they're talking about her on Morning Joe, and it seems like maybe this SNL sketch, there might have been some internal leaks that led to that sketch as well.
Rick, Joe was just saying that she books herself on these shows. We know for a fact she tries to book herself on this show. I won't do it because I don't believe in fake news or information that is not true. And that is every time I've ever seen her on television, something's askew, off.
Look at Kelly. Look at Mika with her totally very getting up in Kellyanne's grill. All right, go ahead.
Or incorrect. Another piece of news concerning Kellyanne Conway. The government's top ethics office is urging the White House to investigate the president's counselor for publicly endorsing Ivanka Trump's clothing line. I still can't believe this happened. In a letter to the White House, the director of the Office of Government Ethics wrote there's, quote, strong reason to believe that Conway violated rules against misusing her position, that, quote, disciplinary action is warranted. The chairman of the House Oversight Committee, who urged the Ethics Office to investigate, has now called on the White House to follow the agency's guidance. Joe, you have some reporting on this as well.
Well, it's actually the same thing I've heard since Donald Trump was elected by his top aides, and again confirmed it last night. She's out of the loop. She's in none of the key meetings. She goes out and books herself often. And, I said this morning, I saw some of the headlines yesterday and felt badly because the language I used was so harsh, and I'm going to take it back. About her, quote, lying. I think, Rick Tyler, it is equally as bad that a spokesperson in the White House actually goes out and makes things up. She doesn't know. She doesn't have the information. She's not in any of the key meetings. She's not briefed. And so she'll go out like she did yesterday. She'll hear me say something about her, as apparently this is what I heard from inside the White House. And then she'll immediately start calling, and she'll call people that go on TV and defend herself. And so then she goes on the Today Show, gives misinformation, as she does on all of these shows. And again, I don't even think she's saying something that she knows to be untrue. She's just saying things just to get in front of the TV set and prove her relevance, because behind the scenes, she's not in these meetings. And any reporter can ask anybody in that White House, and they will say the same thing. She's not in the meeting. So, Rick, the question is, why does the president allow her to keep going out and spreading false information?
So let's get to O'Reilly in a second. But what's incredible about this clip is this always reminds me why Morning Joe is always the worst. First of all, you can't believe that she did a Nordstrom sale while she was on TV. Like, if you are a professional observer of anything, if that surprises you, you should reevaluate the job you do.
Yeah, because you suck at it.
Yeah.
This is the problem with having a goddamn, ex-Republican congressman on the morning show of quote-unquote liberal MSNBC.
Right.
It's like Mika comes out and says, the chick comes out and lies. She's lying. She's lying.
She's lying. She's lying.
Joe's like, well, she's not getting the info. She's not an insider. Blah. It's like, no, dude. And by the way,
and they're still both shielding Trump to some degree.
That's my point. And that's what I was gonna say. Like, even if she's not in those meetings with Bannon, with President Bannon and Vice Lackey Trump.
Right.
But I bet you she's got a direct line to Trump.
Oh yeah. And who do you think?
She gets information directly from him.
And incidentally, the best news that has been reported for Kellyanne Conway's career in the last couple of days was like, Trump loved the Nordstrom's ad, obviously. So again, that's another thing she gets blamed for. That's the thing about cable news. They're getting a little bit more aggressive, but there's still like these well, I think the president can pivot. The president can't do anything. This is who he is. This whole situation is a product of it. Then let's get to Bill O'Reilly. He's talking.
Let's do something else. Let's start with the Spicer thing and then go with the Bill O'Reilly.
God.
Okay, let me get to the Spicer thing.
We didn't do any Spicer.
Now we have Spicer. This is ABC's John Carl from yesterday, and they're all contradicting each other about this Russia information. Of course, there was reports yesterday in the New York Times, new reports, that seemed to be a little bit better sourced to me, frankly, where basically. There was this notion that multiple members of the Trump team were in touch with Russian officials during the campaign. And Paul Manafort went on the record and he said, that's completely ridiculous. I've never knowingly been involved with any Russian intelligence officials. And then he says, it's not like they wear badges. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to go take $3 million from a Ukrainian organized crime figure for some consulting on a gambling contract that I'm doing. He didn't actually say that part. But anyways, here's Sean Spicer. This is from ABC's John Carl. Has anyone in the Trump campaign had contact with Russia prior to the transition?
Jonathan Carl.
Back in January, the president said that nobody in his campaign had been in touch with the Russians. Now, today, can you still say definitively that nobody on the Trump campaign, not even General Flynn, had any contact with the Russians before the election?
My understanding is that what General Flynn has now expressed is that during the transition period, well, we were very clear that during the transition period, he did speak with the ambassador.
I'm talking about during the campaign.
I don't have any. There's nothing that would conclude me that anything different has changed with respect to that time period.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I got distracted. I mean, I think that they obviously have no coordination on this, which is where we'll get actually briefly to Bill O'Reilly, because it's getting so sort of clear that they're all flying blind together, that even now Bill O'Reilly's pointing it out. And if he's saying this, that definitely means some more people are going to get fired soon, because that's what, of course, Trump is watching. But we'll get in just a second. Let's just watch this O'Reilly.
Perhaps the most intriguing aspect on the Flynn saga is the PR component.
Yesterday, Kellyanne Conway said the general was safe.
General Flynn does enjoy the full confidence of the president, and this is a big week for General Flynn. He's the point of contact for many of these foreign visits.
Now, did Ms. Conway mislead, or did she not know the general was in trouble? Either way, not a good situation. Talking Points well understands the complexities of running this country, but it's becoming clear that President Trump needs better coordination among his staff. Should be somebody in charge of quality control and accurate messaging. That someone should be Chief of Staff Reince Priebus, who is experienced and skilled. No way Kellyanne Conway should be out saying all's fine with General Flynn when all was not fine.
Yeah, coordination. That's the problem.
Two things.
Go ahead.
One, when you talk about the dysfunction, Trump came out and he's like, why are we tolerating all these leaks? Who do you think is leaking all of this stuff? All of the backbiting, all of the backstabbing. Like, they're just, the knives have been out from day one between these factions within the regime. Second of all, what he just described is consistent with Trump's entire campaign and his presidency.
Exactly. Talking
out of both sides of his mouth. That's what he's been. Why are we pretending that this is new for Trump? He's always got a consistent, defined message. No, the fuck he doesn't.
Right. Of
He's
course
always talking out of. It doesn't seem that weird to me that he would get on the phone with Kellyanne and tell him, tell him that Mike Flynn is good.
Mike Flynn's fine.
That's it.
He's doing a great
job. Go out there and defend him.
Dad, he says you're fine.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand why this seems so weird to these clowns over there. Like, this is.
Well, I mean, obviously, Fox is different because
Right.
they're the propaganda network. So of course that's going to be. But the fact that if you're on any kind of platform where you're pretending to sort of attempting to present an objective sort of assessment, and we're still playing a game where all of this disaster doesn't emanate from the top. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I just let's get to one more call. Really quick. You're calling from a 610 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Michael. It's Michael from PA. How are you?
What's up, man? What's going on?
Hey, I wanted to get Waz's thoughts on the branding of the Democratic Party. And, I have some thoughts as well on the difference between what it's to be a Republican politician and to be a Democratic politician. You guys have mentioned before how there's like this Chuck Grassley look to all Republican politicians. They have the same cookie cutter build, red tie, parted hair. They all look the same. They had trouble graduating college. They're slightly dumb. And the Democrats have Bernie and, Elizabeth Warren and very few,
That's about
Tim Kaines. That's a rare thing in the Democratic Party. It's mostly a lot of these different characters, So, this is my thinking is, and my experience as running as a Democrat is, each Democrat has to build their own brand.
Yeah.
And we saw that with Obama. It didn't translate to anybody else because it wasn't the Democratic Party; it was Obama's party. Same thing with Bill Clinton. Bill had to build his own brand as the first black president, et cetera, and all that other hokey stuff he did. And, Republicans just keep churning out Marco Rubios all day. And, that's why there's so much more, party discipline is, yeah. So, what is your take on that?
And again, it speaks to what we were talking about with Russia and their collaboration with far right movements. It's just easier to do, right? Like, if you're a Democrat, right, a lot of your stuff is like goal oriented. Like, I want a minimum wage hike, right? I want affordable health care. It's these goals. Whereas if you're a Republican, it's kind of just your identity. It's not targeted in any specific area except for stuff like abortion where they just want to ban it. So a lot of it is just, I just want to see liberals get their teeth kicked in.
Yeah.
Right? And however you achieve that end That's all that kind of matters. So it's easier for them to brand that way. And especially if the perception is I'm a white person and this is the party of white people, it's just this idea that like
my mistake. I got to get on that.
right. It's
Yeah.
this idea that like no matter what happens, I'll be somehow taken care of. And the only time they lash out is when they think that non-whites are getting in front of them in line. So
Yeah.
I think for them, it's just harder because your goals are different. Your ends are different. You know, if you're some guy in Alabama, it's like, I'm a Christian, roll tide, and I'm a Republican.
Right.
Right? It's
Right.
it's just tribalism, really. With the Democrats, like, I don't have any brand loyalty to the Democrats.
Right.
They're the only people who are
You find that's very, very common laws among all liberals.
But the
Is,
thing
like,
that I would
they
say,
have no loyalty to
None.
Democrats
but the
at
other
all,
but the other
whereas
problem,
on the right,
but the other
they
problem,
have total loyalty to
but
the Republican Party.
the other couple of problems is that there's no, like, first of all, Democratic elites, they like. Just again, and I'm that I'm not interested in relitigating primary past election, but I'm just saying that if you have an electoral strategy where the magic formula is the personality and the charisma of Barack Obama, that's a pretty significant factor. If you plug in all of the same variables with a politician like Hillary Clinton, that's a fatal mistake, obviously. And I think that another problem that Democrats have had too is that they've confused people like Bill Clinton or Barack Obama having exceptional personal charisma with discovering a new governing consensus. And that's, and I think this,
Couldn't
I don't know
agree
if you,
more.
Yeah, I don't know if you listened to the interview I did with Michael Kunikin. And that was just the other point too, is that Republicans have a much better understanding of how power works. That there isn't, and you can and you can kind of see it too, like with all of these, you even see people hand wringing about protests, like, oh no, if we protest, then, there's this plan, and there's much more kind of nerdification of democratic politics and confusing of like pretty basic things like charisma with some sort of more deep analytic insight. And I also think the other problem is that, the Democratic Party is just generally much more heterogeneous. I mean, it isn't, Republicans are basically all on the same page. They might have different emphasis, but they're fine with, okay, I don't personally hate gay people, but if we got to oppress gay people to, get me more tax cuts, it's fine.
Look at Rand Paul.
Yeah,
today.
exactly.
Or yesterday. I mean, that is...
Yeah.
That, to me, tells you everything you need to know about the Republican Party and what their politicians are.
Yeah, and that's their main commitment.
Let's not investigate this problem, whether or not you think the Russians influenced the election or not. They intended to, and they acted to in concert with Trump, which is a bigger problem than their success.
I don't know.
Best believe 100% if
even
Hillary
investigate
Clinton won with some foreign interference, there would be Democrats in the Congress who would be lining up to do the investigation.
Oh, and best believe
they would be so happy to freaking do it.
Oh yeah, even if there wasn't any, they would make it up.
Republicans are like, well, shit, we won. Why would we investigate
but
that?
And that's another thing that you see in our media. Like we do this whole like, well, we just pointed out your hypocrisy or double standard, and they're like, so
okay,
like we need to catch up with that.
And I tell people that's the only redeeming quality of the Republican Party. They win.
Right.
They win. That's it.
Well, I mean, that's because it's a party. It's a sociopathic party, and that's the construction of it.
It's a sociopathic country.
Well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but if you look at it from the point of view of they don't care about anything but power, then you'll understand what actions they take, and you'll never be surprised at what a Republican does.
Yeah, I agree that.
And whereas the Democrats, and it's kind of a pain in the ass when you're trying to win, because that's ultimately what all politics is about. If you look at Louisiana, they were running against Vitter, and there was a Democratic Louisiana governor, who's now the governor, who did this TV ad about how Vitter missed a vote for veterans so he could bang a prostitute.
That's a good ad, Mike.
I don't know if you guys remember
yeah,
that.
we did. I thought that was very effective.
My favorite ad of all time.
We got to jump. Thanks, man. That was a good ad.
Take it easy, Mike.
Thanks,
sorry
Mike. No. Thanks, Mike. Chapo Greenhouse. All right. Let's do one more piece of sound, then we'll get to Turkey. Alex Jones And this is what I said. I remember people were like, well, what's going to happen now that Alex Jones is like the mainstream media and a major force in the administration? Like, what's his, new angle going to be? And I said, it's all going to be the counter-revolution, obviously. Like, it's all going to be like the people plotting at the gates to take over and get rid of his, dear, glorious leader. And here he is talking about, and of course, like, what has Barack Obama done since not being president? He's vacationed with Richard Branson, and he sent out one indirect press release being like, I'm happy that people are protesting, which is to say he's not done anything.
And he said engaged.
No, I mean, look, we got to be engaged. Actually, all right, I'll do it. Someone requested this. They requested Obama, Trump. Like, I thought that President Trump has been totally pathetic. Sad. He's done a horrible job. I mean, look, give Obama a break. Are you crazy?
No,
He could go on vacation if he like threw the keys over to someone who's like driving the car off a cliff. And he's just like, all right, well, transition.
Hey, man.
Hey, Richard, how's it going? Let's do some kite surfing.
I mean, I'm talking about a literal break.
Yeah.
Give him a break so that they can just destroy themselves. He's coming back.
I think what is he going to, if he was engaged on this the entire time, like, I feel like you'd have the Republicans more, like, I think just let him.
You think so? Rope-a-dope.
To a certain,
let him rope-a-dope.
To a certain point.
When
and
when they're tearing themselves apart, like, you have to
all
let
right,
them
well,
keep
guys, you know what, guys? I'm sorry to say, because I know you both love Obama so much.
Obots.
And you're total, you're total Obama bots. But Alex Jones has actually set something up he actually knows what's really happening. And that is that, of course, there is a Bolshevik plot that Obama is organizing to take over the Trump administration. This is him on InfoWars yesterday. This is what you guys aren't getting. And this is actually even what I haven't been getting. Obama is super active. Let's check this out.
But here's the key. Paul Watson links to the Foreign Affairs particular article I'm talking about. There's another one. The Kremlin is starting to worry about Trump. I'm going to read these articles in entirety on air today. In fact, I almost get distracted by my guest. I have great guests that come on, but I may just clean the slate of guests today because I need to read all this because this is from the mouth of Lucifer. They say there at Foreign Affairs, which again is only for globalists. They put it out, only the establishment reads it because they think you're too dumb to go read it. And they're like, oh, we're battling the war on truth. Get your truth here. But now they realize the lies don't work. And so I see this in history only when they're about to execute really horrible devastation. Starting huge wars, you name it. Setting a nuke off in D.C., anything. Talking about time to kill Trump.
Setting a nuke off in D.C.
I mean, Obama has gotten a bunker. This is in the news. 2 miles from the White House and is recruiting with Soros an army for a Bolshevik-style revolution.
What?
But what's crazy is, you read, and I woke up at 3:30 in the morning last night, and this never used to happen. I used to sleep like a dead pharaoh, folks. I sleep like a rock. I woke up, I've never, here's what's happening right now. You can see it intellectually. You can also feel it. There was a coup over America under globalism by stealth. There was a counter coup with Trump. They're launching a counter coup right now, and there's incredible things going on right now.
A counter coup.
Counter coup.
This is an amazing time to be alive. And I feel sorry for people that don't have the historical gravitas or understanding, even know what they're dealing with or what they're facing or what they're looking at.
So do
I. But when they come out in these articles and they say everything I've said, but from their perspective, it's frightening. Few things frighten me, but to have this much confirmation of my analysis of the enemy operation, which came from my analysis, and to realize Trump synced up, not because he's even listening to me, but because he gets it, he's smart. He knew this before I was born. I know the inside baseball. This is a long fight. And I look at all the sad, dumbed-down people that have been made slaves of this, and they don't.
When did he get the phrase dumb? Encroaching on my
I think
turf.
he said dumbed down.
I thought he said dumb. All right, anyways, go ahead.
know how hard good people are fighting to try to give them freedom. It's just painful. It's almost too much to actually handle. And to see these snakes go, okay, we're not going to lie anymore. Trump wants America and the world to be free. Trump wants America to take over the whole global system that we stole and that America built. And he wants this big, super powerful system. And he wants to actually empower humanity, and we're not going to let him. And the Russians don't want that either because they want their own power. And like they're devilishly talking to the devil and the Russians going, Trump's going to break all of it. He's going to bring it all down. Join us against Trump. This is some sick stuff, man. This is sick.
Waz, do you feel even more offended that you haven't gotten a call from Soros now than I can't believe that we're not involved in this.
This is the thing. I'm sitting here in the Modest Majority Report studios. It's nice. It's nice. But I'm looking at Alex Jones like that's a major production, dude. And by the way, he has a really nice suit on.
Yes, he does.
It's tailored.
It is.
A great watch.
Yeah.
Like, dude.
He has a super male vitality watch.
Dude,
But
Alex Jones is getting to it, bro.
Yeah, he's a real on. But also, I mean, Alex Jones over Glenn Beck every time. I also want to.
He's actually funny.
He is funny. I also should apologize. That's what I was trying to say. I should apologize to President Obama. I had no idea all he's been up to.
He's in a bunker.
I thought
2
he
miles
was.
from the White House.
I thought he was slacking off.
Soros,
really,
send that check, man.
Send that check.
We need that check,
yeah,
Soros.
Seriously. 585 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Hi, Michael. This is Rebecca, your friend from Boonville, New York.
Oh, hey, Rebecca. How you doing?
How are you? Doing great. We're buried in snow here.
Oh, I would bet. Yeah, you're way up there.
It's been great. It's been great cross-country skiing. So I want to, and hi, Waz. Nice to speak with you, too.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hey. I want to, first of all, just mention real quickly that I'm digging in and getting to work, and I was chosen to serve on the executive committee of the Oneida County Democratic Party.
Oh, congratulations.
And yeah, it's actually an honor, but not really.
You got a Jew horn.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's actually an honor, but not really, because the only reason I'm on the executive committee is because I'm basically the only Democrat in Boonville, but I'll take it and do my part. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. Did you have a question?
I also wanted to, I wanted to kind of sympathize with your struggle over the CIA. Just a little bit of background. I graduated from Union Theological Seminary in Richmond, Virginia, with a master's in Christian education, and I took a course on liberation theology. And in 1990, traveled to Central America, and we spent some time in Nicaragua, not too long after the fall of the Sandinista army. And it was really an earth-shaking experience for me, because for the first time in my life, I mean, I had studied, about Central America's politics and about what our government had done to interfere,
right,
and really the horrible things that we had done as a nation, and that was hard enough. But then to get there and to actually meet with victims of these horrible dictatorships that we were supporting was really earth shaking. I mean, I'm a proud American, and to actually, they had signs up that said, Bush assassin, and
right, sure,
and we actually, and it was earth shaking. So when all of this came out about the intelligence reports about Russia, I was skeptical, because like you, the CIA is not a good guy. But at the same time, I also understand, I mean, my father worked for NASA. He was a government employee.
Sure.
There are good people.
Yeah,
really
and I also don't
that work in the government.
And there's no contradiction between understanding that institutions work in different ways at different times. And I also think that, it's just And I've said consistently, there's plenty of things that have not been conclusively demonstrated, but there's also certainly evidence there too. And I think you just take it and also follow some logical patterns. And a very logical and obvious pattern is that Russia does have a pretty aggressive foreign policy, and they support far-right parties in Europe, and they have synchronized goals in terms of energy production with the new administration. So there you go. In some ways, you don't even need to go beyond that, as far as I'm concerned. But is there anything else you wanted to add?
I think there's a well, I just want to add one quick thing too to say is that really it is about capitalism. I mean the reason that the CIA was in Central America was not to stop communism, but it was to support multinational corporations.
Yes.
The people there knew it, and so that's I think that's the common thread in all of this.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that's
and I would just encourage. I would just encourage, as far as from positive step forward, positive look forward, is let's look at capitalism and let's look at alternatives to that. And I would really encourage people, your listeners, to take a look at the Next System Project. .org that's headed up by Gar Alperovitz, and they're doing a lot of really amazing work looking at an alternative to capitalism.
Okay, will you email that to majorityreporters@gmail.com? I'll check it out.
I'd be happy to.
All right, thank you so much. Thanks for the call.
Sarah, peace.
All right, let's do some IMs. Webmaster, Trump blaming the media for making him fire Flynn. Oh, okay, do you have these tweets up, Matt? We'll get to those, I guess. Ugly Chugly. Hey, guys, and Kelly, I haven't heard you cover anything about the new FCC chair and the changes you already put in place. Please talk about this and include suggestion for actions we can take to resist and protest. Also, I never hear mention made of the impact on the election of suppressing vote in black communities. I thought it was a factor. Am I wrong? I think voter suppression was a factor, yes. Yeah. Medarazi 213. This is a message for Woz! Exclamation point. Can you tell Amin to stop hating on my Lakers all the time? Thanks. That's a crossover episode.
I got some information from Amin this morning related to the Lakers. I don't think you'll be seeing a lot of Amin Laker hate anytime soon.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm allowed to. Actually,
no, you don't have to. No, I'm just even that.
It's public. It's public information. No, it's not. Actually, forget it. It's not.
You want to go for a third one?
No,
okay. All right. Wet Tall did. Where do you Russian appeasers buy caviar? A hook and pinko up. Attorney Andrew. Test. Woz. Who's a worse liar, James Dolan or Kellyanne Conway?
James Dolan, by far.
By far. And Buenara, John McCain is serious on foreign policy because he soberly advocates bombing places. Republicans and the right in general are completely happy if a white Christian nationalist authoritarian regime, Russia, likely helped them take power from a multicultural liberal devils. Okay, so Donald Trump is obviously unwell, and he's freaking out. And these tweets that came out this morning with regard to Flynn are perfect because, again, they belie, I think, and I know that, Sam is very confident that he's not going to be removed from office. And I do think that Sam is totally right about Trump's popularity with the Republican base. And I think he's totally right that the plan was, look, we just push the congressional agenda to make America poorer, sicker, dumber, take away people's health care, ruin the environment, everything else. And this guy can go around the country and give rallies and be popular and be called president and will shepherd everything through Pence. I totally think that was the plan. But this is a catastrophe. And it's gotten to the point where, as Rand Paul pointed out, I mean, this whole Russia thing is taking away time from making people's lives worse. I mean, it's kind of a big deal. Because that plan can't work because Trump is an unstable personality. So here he is this morning. And we're starting, I think, from latest to first, right? The fake news media is going crazy with their conspiracy theories and blind hatred. At MSNBC and CNN are unwatchable. Fox and Friends is great. This Russian connection non-issue is merely an attempt to cover up that many mistakes that made Hillary Clinton's losing campaign. He's 10% right on that one. Information is being illegally given to the failing New York Times and Washington Post by the intelligence community. NSA and FBI. He puts this in brackets with a question mark and an exclamation point. Or no, only a question mark. Just like Russia. Thank you to Eli Lake of Bloomberg View. The NSA and FBI should not interfere in our politics, and it is a very serious situation for the USA. Crimea was taken by Russia during the Obama administration. Was Obama too soft on Russia? And then, of course, the bottom, this is the most recent. The real scandal here is that classified information is legally given out by quote unquote intelligence like candy. Very un-American. Now, what I like about Trump, he's not a very smart guy and he's very emotional, but there's no denials here about any of these things. It's his tantrum version of obfuscation.
This is all a distraction, guys. This is all, everything is fine.
Right.
Everything is fine. It's all a distraction. It's the biased media trying to take me down like they always have. But we're going to win.
We are going to win. I will say, to be fair to some of the members of the hypocrisy pointing out crowd, that it's not like some versions of this argument haven't been advanced by previous administrations. It's not the blatant criminal conduct we're engaging. It's the fact that it was leaked. All right. Let's get to another call. You're calling from a 937 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from? New Jersey.
I'm David.
From New Jersey?
No, 937.
No,
I thought it was 973.
Stop
Sorry,
it.
my bad.
Where are you from? Sorry.
It's Kettering.
Oh.
Kettering, Ohio. I'm Dave von Kettering.
Wait, are you the guy on the YouTube that Matt and Kelly always complain about?
I've never said anything, but Matt.
They hate you?
My ass.
Why?
So
Why?
badly
What have you done?
that
You son of a bitch.
I do not accept that Hillary would have been a good president.
Oh.
I don't
That's
like
not
Trump.
only. That's
I
not it.
oppose Trump.
That wasn't it. It
Say it
was you
again?
didn't think she would be better for the environment.
I didn't think she would be significantly better.
Oh,
wait,
that's
come on.
weak sauce,
Give me a
dude.
second
Come on,
here.
that's weak.
No, don't do that to me. You're adults.
Are we?
She was supported by Warren Buffett, who is a major investor in the Dakota Access Pipeline. She was pro
All right,
fracking.
David, right here. We can end this
Yes.
whole conversation right now. Even though it's lovely to hear your voice.
It's so lovely.
Don't ban him again. That was funny. Okay, David. Who stopped the Dakota Access Pipeline? What were the two things that led that to being stopped?
It could not get a clearance from the engineer.
And why did that happen? First and foremost, it happened because of massive
Obama-
protests, and Obama
Obama
stopped it. Right. Right. So, do you
Okay.
think if Hillary Clinton was in office right now, she would have reversed Obama to completely unnecessarily piss off her base, enrage everybody because Warren Buffett and his billions of dollars and infinite expanse of interests on an issue that he's never even mentioned publicly might benefit from it? She would piss everybody off. I got news for you. I think not only would she not do it, I don't even think Warren Buffett would hold that against her.
She might not do it immediately.
Oh,
But she would do it because you know that oil is light sweet crude. That is easily refinable. It's going to be a bonus to the oil companies.
But
of
David,
course.
let me tell you something, David. Even if you were right,
She has the,
even if you were right, which I don't buy, but let's stipulate that. Do you know the reason why they were trying to rush that deal through so quickly? Why they had to have a violent response, among many other reasons, to protesters, and why, even as it was taking
violent
over.
response.
No, but do you
Excuse me,
know
the
why?
Violent response was
Do you know why?
taking place.
I know.
Why?
I know.
Tell me.
Why? Because if the deal was delayed for another couple of months, they would have to renegotiate it and oil prices have gone down significantly, so their profit margin would be significantly less.
Oil prices have been rising consistently. They're
Not
up
back to
above
where they were when they
$53.
originally negotiated that contract. They would have lost
Yes,
money
but
on
the
it.
same is true for fracking. They stopped fracking because the oil prices didn't sustain the expense
So
of
you-
getting oil that
Okay,
way.
all right.
So you're happy with President
So
Trump.
you
We get
really honestly think?
No, I hate President
So
Trump.
you really
I
honestly
think he's
think-
a disaster.
Right. Okay.
No, I
So
think
so
he's a
what's
disaster.
so what's the point? Hillary would have had plenty of
The
problems
point
on the
is
environment.
that-
Sure. She
Okay,
would have been
here's what
significantly
happened.
better than Trump, of course. There we go.
There are people
Easy thought
in
process.
the chat. May I talk, please?
Maybe not.
There are people in the chat who insist on treating Hillary Clinton as if she were perfect. And I respond to that.
perfect.
There is no one in the chat that really wants to treat Hillary like
I
she's
don't
perfect.
think that there's anybody involved in
Take a
this
look
show.
Take a look at Angry Skeptic, Salvatore Pilato, T. Bernard.
This is getting
Is
bit.
he naming-
He's naming chat, dude. This is too. You got. I got to run. I'm sorry. There's a limited amount of time on the planet.
This has been unsatisfactory, but I love
I'm
you guys.
sorry.
I've been watching you since
Love you.
Sam Cedar was with Janine. So bye.
All right. Thanks a lot,
Take it easy,
man. Bye
Thank
bye.
you for the call. He's a nice guy, but I mean, come on.
I don't know what to tell you. We know what I just talking about because there's a rumor that Hillary's actually thinking about running in 2020, which is like, oh my God, what a nightmare. But I realized there's one way that I not only would not object to it, but I'd actually support her, which is that if she just ran a pure Trump campaign, like if she was just like, I didn't bring the wife into it. I never throw the first punch, but I will. Like she's in the debate, and he's just like, "We've done great things." She's like, "Wrong, Donald's wrong. He's crooked. What a loser." I call him Crazy Bernie because she's crazy. Okay, tomorrow there's going to be hearings for Andy Pudzer, and this is worth mentioning too because Andy Pudzer is a massive scumbag. I actually think he almost makes. I mean, all of these people make the cut, but here's a guy who's a fast food CEO who's spoken out against the minimum wage, who dreams for the days that robots can replace workers. She since recanted the charges, but there's a video of one of his ex-wives speaking anonymously to Oprah, basically saying like he's a wife beater. And there are at least 4 Republicans on the record that have concerns about him. This might be one of the ones that go down. The other thing, too, that he also did was hired, of course, an undocumented worker, and then he didn't pay taxes on their salary. What a surprise. But Hugh Hewitt, who was a very strange man, his success could only happen as a member of the conservative welfare pundit industry.
Pretty much.
And here he is talking with Senator Rob Portman from Ohio. And it's not just that he's upset that Portman isn't committed to vote for Pudzer yet. He's also got some things to say about Andy Pudzer that I don't think anybody has ever said about Andy Pudzer in his whole life.
2 months ago. I am surprised that he hasn't been, unanimously approved by any American who wants growth in this country. What do you think is happening? Why are people, I think you're among them, that are reluctant to say, I'm with Andy, I'm going with him, because I will be so deeply disappointed if he is not confirmed, because he is, I think the Bill Bennett of this administration, as Bennett was to Reagan 1, the sleeper who will show up and turn everybody's head. Why the reluctance?
Yeah, well, my position is consistent with the other cabinet nominees, which is, I want to see the hearing and ask the questions. I haven't met with him yet. I haven't had the chance to have that interaction. And I've said I want to see what happens in the hearing and how he answers questions and so on. So we'll see. Look, I think he's got, as I've said publicly, incredible business background. As you said, I think he has the potential to be, one of the thought leaders in the administration. But he does have some issues, and these are issues related to the Labor Department in the sense of hiring somebody who's illegal and not paying the taxes. And, honestly, yes, I think he has said he should have known better. And so those are the issues, among others, that I want to hear from. And then just on the substantive issues, where I think he and I are going to be very, very similar.
I hope he answers those to your satisfaction. I think the country needs him. It's so desperately there. Last question.
Yeah, the country really needs some fast food CEO who hires undocumented workers and probably beat his ex-wife. That's definitely what we urgently need at this time of mass inequality. I just want a quote really quick. And also, William Bennett as a star of anything. Isn't he like some abstinence advocate who had a gambling problem? Who the hell is William Bennett?
The way he's talking about this is how sports analysts talk about this guy's gonna be the X factor. He's gonna come in off the bench, give him solid rebounding and good deep. What are you talking about?
It's while everybody's distracted with this whole Russia co-opting our government thing, we got big things to focus on, like getting rid of the minimum wage, making people poorer. I'm just gonna quote a little bit from this article. In Al Jazeera, Pulitzer has a record of not only opposing expansions of labor rights such as minimum wage and making overtime rules more enforceable, he's also a serial violator of labor laws. This is according to Anam Shah, senior policy analyst at Jobs with Justice Union, and also, and this is also again from the same article. In the anti-discrimination context, Hardee's and Carl's Jr., which are both part of the CKE restaurants chain that Pudger is chief executive of. In anti-discrimination context, Hardee's and Carl's Jr. have had more federal discrimination lawsuits brought against them since 2000 when Mr. Pudger took over than any other major hamburger chain. Now, of course, that is a notoriously abusive industry. Woz, let's give Matt some good news. Did you know that Matt was a good Catholic boy growing up?
Was he now?
Yeah. Matt.
Were you an altar boy, Matt?
No, I was never an altar boy.
Me neither.
He also didn't actually go to church. He just drove there in high school and slept in the back of the car.
No, I late in high school. I said I was going to the teen mass, which is at night, but instead I would just stay in my car and listen to Sunday Night Football.
Yeah.
Say, baby, put down that pipe and get my pipe up.
Pretty much after 8th grade, and I did go to a Catholic high school. Shouts to St. Francis Prep, Terrius. Whoop whoop. Yeah, pretty much after 8th grade, it was over for that church stuff. I was just like, look, Mom, I don't believe in God.
Not like Woz with your usual diplomacy.
Well, how did your
Mom, that's a wrap.
She wanted to know why, and I had a satisfactory explanation. It was a thing that happened in middle school with the pastor of my church. It wasn't like that kind of thing. But it was something like, I'm like, this guy's supposed to be some kind of emissary from God. Are you freaking kidding me? And I was like, I lost my religion. I'm done with religion.
I did the same thing in 9th grade. I didn't say that I was sure, but my mom didn't react like that.
Yeah, no, but because even in 8th grade,
fine, and freaked out.
Yeah, but see, my mom is she's deeply religious or spiritual, but she doesn't actually attend church a lot, but she does do a lot of the God stuff. Right?
Sham Rasta.
Yeah, so there was a component of I can't be that hypocritical because I don't even go to church that much.
Oh,
but
that's cool.
I did at a point tell my mom, I was like, I don't believe in God.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's cool. She rolled with it. Well, Pope Francis has condemned.
See, this is why you don't read the chat, Kelly. Matt was gooched, not molested. I mean, come on. This is why you don't read the chat. This is this is why.
It's a great point.
This is why.
If Donald Trump was not he could end up in the chat. Although, I don't know, love to the chat people. But Pope Francis has condemned the North Dakota Access Pipeline. And he insisted Wednesday that, and this is quoting out from ABC News, indigenous rights groups must give prior consent to any economic activity affecting their ancestral lands, a view that conflicts with the Bush administration, which is pushing to build a $3.8 billion pipeline over the opposition from American Indians. So I just wanted to note that. And really briefly, before we get to some more dessert, Stephen Miller, then wrap this up. Mike Pompeo, the head of the CIA, as we all know in the Trump administration, with a virulently anti-Muslim, conspiratorial, and dangerous far-right attitude, just like the rest of the crew there. Do you know where he took his first foreign trip abroad? He went to Turkey, which is interesting because you might think for a virulent anti-Muslim politician, he might not want to go to a virulently pro-Sunni, religiously active government.
But I hear it's the bridge to the Middle East.
It's the bridge to the Middle East, Mike. See, he actually treats Michael Pompeo a little bit more respectfully than Mike Pence. He went to Turkey, and I'm going to quote briefly now. This is a piece in the Daily Sabah, which is pro-Turkish government. But he held talks in Turkey and Ankara on Thursday with his intelligence counterpart, and basically they discussed terrorism issues, including not just ISIS, but from a Turkish point of view, they talked about the Democratic Union parties, PYD, the armed wing of the People's Protection Units, YPG, and the Gulenist terror group, FETO. Now, all of those groups are incredibly contested, obviously. And the People's Protection Units, the YPG, are the Syrian anarchist socialists who run part of basically Western Syria. They're the ones fighting ISIS back, and also governing their territory in a socialist manner. Basically, Assad kind of pulled his forces out of that area, and the Kurds are fighting in it, and their headquarters are in Rehova. So the United States has actually been backing those Kurdish fighters with selective airstrikes because, again, they're the prime effective fighting force against ISIS in that area. There's some concerning signs that the Bush administration is going to, or rather the Trump administration is going to sell them out. And this is the other thing, that the prime advocate of that would have been Mike Flynn, because in addition to his Russia connections, he also was lobbying in connection with the Turkish AKP government, and basically said in a column in The Hill recently, Fethullah Gulen, who is a religious leader that is based in Pennsylvania, who used to be close with the Turkish leader, Erdogan, they've had a major falling out. And now Erdogan is claiming that Gulen is a terrorist, that Gulen was behind the coup effort that happened several months ago, and there's even questions now about whether that was even really an actual coup effort. Fethullah Gulen getting extradited from the United States to Turkey is an incredibly controversial thing from a humanitarian and diplomatic perspective. This is what General Flynn had to say about it on November 8th, in a piece he wrote for The Hill. From Turkey's point of view, Washington is harboring Turkey's Osama bin Laden. There is no one else in the planet who would say that besides high-level officials of the Turkish AKP. And if we pull back a protective umbrella around the YPG, that might just give the Turks the go-ahead to move in Syria as well. It might have helped the Kurds before when Russia and Turkey were on the outs, but now they're not. They're synchronized. So that could be really bad news for really the only fighting force there that's worth having some sympathy for. So I wanted to check in everybody on that. All right, Waz, we got to talk about Stephen Miller for a minute. Did you read What a Cuck?
Yeah.
What an aspiring school shooter. So last week, we saw Stephen Miller come out to piss George Stephanopoulos off by making things up about voter fraud in New Hampshire. We saw his sort of disturbing stare. He's obviously was reading cue cards while he's talking. And the more has come out about this guy, the more, even in an administration that just exemplifies the absolute worst that humanity has to offer, this guy right here is still really, really standing out. So, Waz, I know we read this piece.
Yeah.
This is a piece in Univision that came out. How White House advisor Stephen Miller went from pestering Hispanic students to designing Trump's immigration policy. And basically, this article goes down. It begins in the early 1990s when Jason Miller told a friend of his named Jason Isles, which I know I'm mispronouncing, who was Hispanic, that they couldn't be friends anymore as they were about to go into high school. Even though they watched Star Trek together and were buddies, Do you remember the prime reason why they couldn't be friends anymore was?
Because the kid was of Latin descent.
That's right.
That
was basically a major part of the whole. And in fact, Isles, who spoke to Univision, said basically there were some other childish reasons, but I can't be your friend anymore because you are Latino.
Yeah.
He remembers Miller saying. Miller went off to Duke University. Who did he hang out with at Duke?
Coach K. No, kidding. I kid the Dukies.
That might have changed his league. Richard Spencer.
Yeah.
Of Get Punched in the Face fame.
Yeah.
Now.
Shocking.
It's really so sad that
the
we
guy
can't have a
shaping
free exchange of ideas with a neo-Nazi.
The guy who is shaping foreign policy for this regime was palling around with racists at Duke University.
And then he went on as a 20-something from Southern California to go work for Jeff Sessions from Alabama?
I wonder why.
What the hell is that about?
Well, this guy's jailing like civil rights activists. So that's a guy.
Why would
that's where
you,
I gotta be.
Yeah, why would you, if you're a young 20, and especially at the time, Jeff Sessions was a marginal figure.
Right.
He was the type of guy that even in the Republican caucus, they were like, that guy's a little nuts, especially when there's a Hispanic name that comes up. You're a 20-something from Santa Monica, and you're like, I need to go work with that elfin old Confederate from Alabama?
Well, Mike,
you think this might be race-based at all?
It's similar to, that time I was listening to Majority Report and you made an Obama 5%er joke, and I was like, I gotta go find this guy. It's the same thing basically happening if you're a white supremacist.
Right.
And this homie's Jewish, isn't he?
That was the final bit that I wanted to get to.
Which is like
homeboy is Jewish.
So
his parents were Democrats according to Wikipedia, and he also was Michelle Bachmann's press secretary.
God.
Which is it's always.
I almost wanted to do it. I hate you, Mom and Dad, but he wouldn't even do that. He'd be like, I hate you, Mom and Dad. Those vacant, terrifying eyes. So, I guess and I doubt anybody listening to or watching this is pretending anything otherwise, but like, how much more can people pretend that these people are anything other than what they are? This was the dude who co-drafted the Muslim ban with Steve Bannon, which bore all the hallmarks that you would expect of this guy, which is racism and sloppy work.
Well, that's the thing. The news media, they're not going to be as explicit about it because that's just not their tact. They're just not wired that way to come out and just say like, dude, he's hiring literally KKK members. But the people,
not literally. I mean, my dad was part of the Klan.
The people who want to see Trump succeed, his fans, his supporters, it's just racism doesn't matter.
No, racism doesn't matter to them. But I guess what I'm saying is, when does racism become like the word lies? Like, when does something become so overt and blatant that
calling it out?
Yeah, because we've been saying because of course I understand. I get your point. Like, from my point of view, like many people, because we're getting. I guess what we're saying is like. What I'm saying is that there is a deeper conversation about what racism is. To me, it's primarily a policy and structural question and not about personal attitudes. So Bill Clinton, in terms of things he's done in public life, could meet my definition of a racist, right? George W. Bush, Bill Clinton. But we're starting...
Obama. No, just kidding.
I fucking hate Whitey. But but you know what? Actually, yeah. If you support certain prison policies at certain points, or if you support the death penalty, like that's more my metric of it.
Right.
But you're starting to get people like this guy, Stephen Miller, who he fits that like, and there's a lot more in this article. He was angry when he heard people speaking Spanish.
Yeah.
People are lazy, he's hitting the
9/11 was a big one.
9/11 was a big one. That's when he added hating Muslims to the mix. And if you don't get at this point that there's anti-Muslim racism, and I said racism, it's not just a set of ideas that you agree or disagree with. No, it signifies something, you morons. If you don't understand how this fits into this too, there's nothing I can do to help you. But when you have people out there that are so like start to fit those narrower definitions, which is like being a racist means you're a bad person who bases your judgment of people off of their ethnic identity. It's like, well, Bannon, Miller,
look, and
Trump.
And again, I'm just playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah.
But people would say, those who support our president would say, we had quote unquote non-racists in before and they didn't do shit for us. So if these people are going to come in and do the things that we
no, but I'm talking about the news media. I'm talking about
news
CNN.
media.
I'm
without
talking
excuse.
About,
they don't have
that's what I'm talking about. Forget the supporters. I'm talking about
they don't have a leg to stand on.
Yeah.
No.
When do we start? If we're going to start calling lies, when are we going to also start calling racism?
I mean, look at what had to happen, for them to finally be like, this Kellyanne stuff is just too much. Like the campaign just wasn't enough.
Right.
Like finally, they're just like, dude, you came on TV and said he was safe, and he wasn't.
Like within hours.
Quit. Like it's not like something just like at the time when you told us all of this turmoil was happening and you told us everything was fine. You're a liar.
Right.
It takes a lot for these people to turn around on this. Something I thought was interesting about the piece.
Yeah.
It was right after September 11th, and I guess this guy was in high school or whatever.
Right.
And he said, quote, "We have all heard about how peaceful and benign the Islamic religion is. But no matter how many times you say that, it cannot change the fact that millions of radical Muslims would celebrate your death for the simple reason that you are Christian, Jewish, American."
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And immediately I thought about President Trump going on TV and defending Vladimir Putin by saying, America's not perfect.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'm like, do you not even see the irony?
Well, he didn't have the talking points on that yet. Before we get, I know exactly what you're saying. Before we get to the last call, this just happened. Trump is meeting with Netanyahu. This image is nauseating. They're at the White House, and there's been an uptick in anti-Semitic incidents in the United States. I wonder why. And Trump is going to be asked about this. I'm really curious to watch how Bibi responds because he's the defender of the Jews. He's the king of the Jews, according to him. And this is how Trump responded to this stories about uptick in anti-Semitism.
Even after your victory, we've seen a sharp rise in anti-Semitic incident across the United States. And I wonder, what do you say to those among the Jewish community in the States and in Israel and maybe around the world who believe and feel that your administration is playing with xenophobia and maybe racist tones? And Mr. Prime Minister, do you agree to what the President just said about the need for Israel to restrain and to stop settlement activity in the West Bank? And a quick follow-up on my friend's questions. Simple question. Do you back off from your vision to the end of the conflict of two-state solution as you lay out in Bar Ilan speech, or you still support it? Thank you.
Well, I just want to say that we are, very honored by the victory that we had, 306 electoral college votes. We were not supposed to crack 220. You know that, right? There was no way to 221, but then they said there's no way to 270.
Are you concerned about an uptick in anti-Semitic incidents? I'm very proud we cracked 360 in the Electoral College. All right, go ahead.
And there's tremendous enthusiasm out there. I will say that we are going to have peace in this country. Mm-hmm. We are going to stop crime in this country. We are going to do everything within our power to stop long simmering racism and every other thing that's going on, because a lot of bad things have been taking place over a long period of time. I think one of the reasons I won the election is we have a very, very divided nation, very divided. And hopefully I'll be able to do something about that. And it's something that was very important to me. As far as people, Jewish people, so many friends, a daughter who happens to be here right now, a son-in-law, and 3 beautiful grandchildren. I think that you're going to see a lot different United States of America over the next 3, 4, or 8 years. I think a lot of good things are happening, and you're going to see a lot of love. You're going to see a lot of love. Okay? Thank you.
A lot of love. Oh, my God. All right, I can't even answer that. Let's get to the final call. I'm sorry, everybody else. We're not going to get to you. We've got to get to the final call, then we'll run through some IMs. You're calling from a 215 area code. Who are you? Where are you calling from?
Michael.
Hey, is this, who is
Mindy.
it? Hey, it's Mindy.
Mindy.
What's up, Mindy?
Okay. I've been trying to talk to you. I have 7 things to talk to you about, and I know you're not going to let me talk about all of them, so I'm just going to run through them, and you pick the one you want.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so, wait, let me turn my TV off. Oh, God, I got to turn hold on, my iPad. I'll go in the other room. Okay, so I wanted to talk, A, about Stephen Miller, B, about Sandusky, Trump with Netanyahu, my Central Bucks School District, Brian Fitzpatrick won't schedule a town hall meeting, my congressman.
Your congressman
and how
won't.
the country,
Your congressman
Okay,
won't
all right.
schedule a town hall meeting and
yes,
give
we have a
me.
new congressman, and he
Yeah.
won't schedule a town hall meeting.
He's a Republican. He won't schedule one.
Yes, and he may pretend he was the other kind of Republican.
I see.
You know, he was like the good kind of Republican, and he won't. So I wanted to tell you, I joined the Indivisible group here.
Awesome.
There's
Great.
800 members.
There's 800
There's 3
members of
groups
Indivisible in your district. Wow.
Well, there's 3 groups in my district.
Okay.
And the group that I'm in has 800. Another one's called Rise Up that has like 500, which is maybe 5 miles from me.
Mhm.
And then there's another one that has like 700 members.
That's incredible.
So
really, before
yes.
we go, do you have a brief insult for Stephen Miller that you would like to share? Because if it's something about him or his appearance, I would like to hear it.
His appearance, I will,
Yes.
but I need to just plug the thing about my group.
Okay, plug it.
So,
Go ahead.
Okay, so they're letting me be the event coordinator, and I'm already trying to have our first meeting at a gigantic Mexican restaurant here. And
great.
the Mexican restaurant,
Yes.
the Mexican restaurant is down 30 to 40% since the election.
Oh, that's horrible.
Okay,
That's incredible.
then the second thing I want to tell you is our Central Bucks School District, not my school district, but one real right near me,
Mhm.
has just taken all the climate change stuff out of the textbooks.
They took. Okay, well, you got to call back, and can you email some of this stuff to majorityreporters@gmail.com?
Yeah, I'll email it.
Yeah, if
I
there's a
will email-
story
well,
about the
look-
climate change in the textbooks, I would like to see that.
I have some really informative things to tell you that aren't funny. So how do I reach you guys?
Majority reporters.
After we get off the phone, can you just like Kelly, like give me the information or something?
No, I can tell you right now. It's majorityreporters@gmail.com.
I'm not technically
I
the
will do that.
secretary, Mindy.
Hmm?
I'm just the
What?
only woman.
Did you get that email?
It's Majority Reporters.
At
My
G-
girlfriend Michelle will tell me what to do.
majorityreporters@gmail.com. Send the email in. All right, really quickly. I do have to go, but I
Okay,
want to hear the Stephen
Miller.
Miller comment.
I
Go.
actually thought that I couldn't find anybody more disgusting in the world than Kellyanne, and then came up Stephen Miller.
Right.
Do you think he was a virgin when he came into the White House?
Yes.
Do you think that which one do you think got him? Do you think they sent in Kellyanne, or do you think they sent in Jared to de-virgin him?
Oh! I didn't know that I want to hear all of that. All right. You know what, Mindy? I'm physically sick now, but I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. And it's majorityreporters@gmail.com.
Katrina Pearson. Just remember Katrina Pearson.
He does not deserve Katrina Pearson. All right. Thank you for
No,
the
no.
call. Okay. Bye-bye. All right, everybody. We can't get to the rest of the calls. I'm sorry. I'm just going to race through a couple of IMs, and then we're out of here. Rick Fain, what's the big deal with Trump campaign working with Russians? It's practically a Republican tradition. Nixon worked with the Vietnamese to reject the Paris Accords. Reagan got the Iranians to hold off returning hostages. Get Rachel Maddow to a history on this.
There's a truth to that.
Yeah, there's a lot of truth to that. That's a really good point. Ronald Reagan. Love the DC dweeb character. Agree or disagree, John McCain is a great patriot. Also love Woz. He's taking Zach Lowe's place in my basketball podcast rotation.
Wow.
Much love to Zach. Wow.
Shouts to Zach Lowe. According to Slate.com, the best sports writer in America. So that's high praise coming from
Well,
you.
apparently you just cucked the best sports commentator in America, Woz. A Square, hello. Two Dope Boys, loving the convo today. To get through the Flynn fog. Mike, your point yesterday about Bannon helping to push Flynn off of the plank pirate ship to curry favor with the GOP establishment. True that. I would add, I don't buy that Pence just found out about Flynn calls and content. I think this talking point is being repeated by the GOP to insulate him. I honestly think any of these things are plausible. He's, after all, Ryan and McConnell and the big corporate donors man. That's true. R.H. General. With Trump having pulled the wool over the eyes of Pence with regards to Flynn's Russian fraternization, does Pence have justification for pursuing the 25th Amendment? Maybe, but that's definitely not going to happen. All right. The Under the Hill pundit. I watched TV last night, and I saw pundits on MSNBC questioning the foreign policy implications of Flynn's presence in the White House, and if we should be skeptical of Trump's judgment. I also saw pundits on Fox recommending that Trump quickly replace Flynn with Petraeus because he has name recognition. At least Flynn was, talking about sanctions. He wasn't just like, "Hey, you want to hear me talk to the Russian ambassador, baby? you want to hop on the next line of this call?" No critical questions asked. I conclude that we're all doomed. Fox did point out that Dems referenced fake Flynn tweets yesterday, though. Cuck Todd, this week on Meet the Press, General Flynn gets militant with my wife as she looks for an exit strategy from our marriage. Woz, pick a letter.
Q.
You're like me. I can see now. I feel empathy for Sam. That's a pain in the ass letter. Pick something that isn't weird.
S.
Sarah Bell. Since the topic yesterday and today seems to be Russia, what are your thoughts about their aggressive expansionist attitudes now? I think I addressed that earlier. I live in northern Sweden, in a city that has been attacked by Russia in the past, so it just makes me a bit nervous that Trump seems to be emboldening them. It's all well and good to talk about them just wanting oil, but what if I get squashed on the way to Norway's oil? Do you think there's anything that can be done? Well, I definitely don't think I think the Baltic states are in real danger of that sort of thing. I don't think Sweden is at that moment. It seems like a delicate balance to me, and I'm not sure what to do other than keep writing my senator, which you should. Okay, Kelly, letter.
B.
Bertel Mecht. Stephen Miller's a dime store Goebbels, who was just a dollar store Evola, who was Kohl's brand Hegel, and Marx cucked Hegel anyways. This show really has a lot of interesting content.
Kevin Cruz tweeted a funny joke. He called him Pee Wee Herman Goering.
Pee Wee Herman Goering. Matt, letter.
A P.
A P. I thought P. Why not? It's almost like I just missed church. I'm not seeing that.
N.
I'll go with D.
Dolink. Van Susteren on MSNBC is insufferable, too deep into Fox excuse-making Guardian article, Sessions' hardline stance on youth incarceration at odds with public's views on criminal justice, no criminal justice reform, just more punishment, retaliation, and vindictiveness. And the final
Michael,
I am of the day, yes.
Since Kelly went with D, I'm going to go with P.
All right. I don't know if I can find it. I think I already picked one out. This is great material, though. Thank you for being with us today. Great sports commentator, political analyst, the Haitian Charlie Pierce, Wosny Lambre. All right. Joar,
wow.
Where is Comrade Gohmert? He's tailor-made for today. I think KGB Gohmert is the conduit between Trump and Putin. I also heard Flynn's son, Dad, is on it. Sam is back tomorrow. Thank you, everybody.
It might take all the strength I got to get to where I want, but I know somehow I'm gonna get there. I wasn't looking when I just got caught between the truth and the light bar. But finding out won't make me feel any better. Yeah, I know the clock is ticking, but the meds are gonna kick in, and my pilot light shining bright. I guess somewhere the choice was made for the option where you don't get paid, for the road that